I still remember how her tiny fingers wrapped around mine in those first precious moments. Then my mother walked into the hospital room, told the nurse she was taking my daughter for a diaper change, and I didn't see my baby again for 7 years. Say you never forget the smell of your newborn's head, but what they don't tell you is how that memory can haunt you, especially when your own mother is the one who stole your child right from the hospital. I was just 19, vulnerable, and alone when my mother convinced a small-town clerk she was the birth mother and legally registered my daughter as her own. The system that should have protected us became the very weapon used against me. How? Could a grandmother betray her own daughter in the most unimaginable way? Subscribe to our channel for more true stories of survival against impossible odds. At first, I thought nothing of it. Mama had always been the practical one, stepping in when things needed doing. I lay back against the hospital pillows, exhausted from 18 hours of labor, but filled with a strange new joy I'd never known before. "Let me clean her up proper," Mama had said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "You rest." 20 minutes passed, then 45. A gentle unease crept into my chest. "Nurse?" I called out when a young woman in scrubs passed my door. "Have you seen my mama?" She took my baby girl for a diaper change. The confusion on her face changed everything. "No patient is authorized to transport infants," she said slowly. "Only hospital staff." What followed was chaos. Code pink alarms, security guards rushing down hallways, police officers appearing with notepads and suspicious eyes, and me still bleeding into hospital pads, trying to stand on trembling legs, screaming my daughter's name, even though she was too new to the world to know it. "What's your relationship with the baby's father?" they asked. "Did you have a plan for the child?" they asked. "Were you planning to keep the baby?" They asked Dot as if I was the one they should suspect. As if I hadn't just had life torn from my body twice, once in birth and once in theft. The police. Found Mama's car gone from the parking lot. Her phone went straight to voicemail. By nightfall, they'd been to her house, our house, where I'd lived my whole life until my pregnancy became too shameful for Mama to bear. Empty. Closets cleared out. Mail stopped. Utilities scheduled for disconnection. "She planned this," the detective said, not unkindly. "I'm sorry." That night, alone in the maternity ward, surrounded by the distant cries of other women's babies, I clutched the only thing I had of my daughter, a single Polaroid the nurse had taken minutes after birth, her wrinkled face, her dark, matted hair, her eyes squeezed shut against the harshness of the world that had already betrayed her. "I will find you," I whispered to the photo. "I promise." If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, leave a comment below. Let me know. I'm not alone in this darkness. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, scattered throughout my life, like breadcrumbs leading to this moment of absolute betrayal. Mama never did tolerate imperfection. My childhood was measured in achievements she could brag about at church and failures she'd punish with silence that could last for days. "A daughter reflects her mother's worth," she'd say, pinching my arm while straightening my Sunday dress. When Tommy Jackson got me pregnant senior year, Mama didn't cry or yell. She went cold like a pilot light snuffed out. "You've ruined everything," she said, voice flat as week old soda. "No college, no future, just another trailer trash statistic." I tried calling Tommy when the test showed positive. His mother answered, voice honey sweet but eyes probably hard as flint. "He's gone to his uncle's in Tulsa, military school. Best for everyone, don't you think?" The line went dead before I could answer. Mama made her terms clear. I could stay until the baby came, then decide adoption or leave. "No bastard children under my roof," she declared while reading her Bible at the kitchen table. But something changed in her 7th month. She started buying baby things, a crib, tiny clothes, a rocking chair. I mistook it for acceptance, for the grandmother emerging from beneath the disappointed mother. "You're too young," she'd say, folding onesies with military precision. "You don't know the first thing about raising a child." Each statement delivered like gospel truth. She took me to a different hospital for delivery. Not the one 10 minutes from our house, but one 40 miles away where nobody knew us. Better doctors, she claimed. Now I understand she needed strangers, people who wouldn't question her story. The night before my water broke, I found her in the nursery, rearranging everything I'd set up. "This isn't right," she muttered. "None of this is right. It's how I want it, Mama," I said, one hand on my swollen belly. She looked at me, then really looked at me, and I saw something that chilled me despite the July heat calculation. Like I was a problem with a solution she finally worked out. "You always did think you knew best," she said. "Even when you were dead wrong." The next morning, my contractions started. She drove me to the hospital, played the concerned mother to perfection, even held my hand through the worst pains. "Everything will be as it should be soon," she whispered as I pushed my daughter into the world. I thought she meant our new life together. My baby and me. I didn't know she meant a life where she rewrote history, erased me, and stole not just my child, but my very identity as a mother. The hospital discharged me with pamphlets about postpartum, depression, and empty arms that ached to hold my baby. I had nowhere to go. Mama's house, my childhood home, stood empty with a for sale sign already hammered into the front yard. I crashed on my friend Amber's couch, the only person from high school who hadn't completely ghosted me after my pregnancy showed. Her pity was a roof at least. "We need to file a police report," Amber insisted, watching me stare blankly at the ceiling. The local police station smelled like coffee and floor cleaner. Officer Daniels, who'd coached our high school softball team years before, wouldn't quite. "Meet my eyes." "Look, Jessie, this is complicated," he said, shuffling papers. "Your mama filed the birth certificate already. Listed herself as the mother." "That's impossible," I whispered. "I'm the mother." I had the stretch marks to prove it. He slid a photocopy across the desk. There it was, my daughter's name, Lily, with my mother listed as birth mother. My name nowhere. "How?" My voice cracked. "How could she do this?" "County clerk's office in Wilson County, where you delivered. Marge Shelton's been clerk there 30 years, went to school with your mama. Said your mama explained that her unmarried daughter was putting the baby up for adoption, but she, as the grandmother, was stepping in to keep the baby in the family." Officer Daniels looked uncomfortable. "Legally, it's a mess. Technically, it's fraud, but what? But it's being treated as a family matter. And your mama's already filed for an emergency move out of state with her daughter due to domestic issues." My heart stopped. What domestic issues? He couldn't meet my eyes. "She's claiming you threatened her and the baby." Judge Winslow granted. Her emergency relocation. Judge Winslow. My mother's second cousin. Small towns, small minds. Small justice. I spent what little money I had on a consultation with the only lawyer in town, Mr. Pearson, who smelled like peppermint and disappointment. "Without money for a DNA test and proper representation, you're facing an uphill battle," he explained. "Your mother has resources, community standing. You have. I had nothing. No job. No home. No proof except my word and a body still leaking. Milk for a baby who wasn't in my arms. She can't just steal my baby," I said, voice hollow even to my own ears. "People with power and connections can do many things they shouldn't be able to do," Mr. Pearson said, not unkindly. "The system works for those who know how to work it." I walked out of his wood-paneled office into the bright summer sun that seemed to mock my darkness. My daughter was out there somewhere, being raised by the woman who had controlled and manipulated me my entire life, and the law the system meant to protect the innocent had become the very chains that bound me to this nightmare. After 2 months on Amber's couch, her boyfriend made it clear I overstayed my welcome. I didn't blame them. My grief had become a living thing, a presence that filled rooms and suffocated conversation. I found a job waiting tables at Denny's and rented a room in a house shared by 4 other people I barely saw. My body had healed on the outside, but inside I was hollowed out, an empty shell walking through life on autopilot each night after my shift. I'd sit on my twin bed and try to imagine what my daughter might look like, Was she sleeping through the night yet? Had she smiled for the first time? Did she sense somehow that the woman holding her wasn't the one who had carried her for 9 months? One night, I dreamt so vividly of holding her that I woke up with my arms cradled around nothing, my shirt wet with breast milk that my body still stubbornly produced. Something broke in me that night. The next evening, a customer left half a bottle of whiskey at the table. I pocketed it, took it home, and drank until the edges of my pain blurred. It helped. For a few hours, it helped. Soon, alcohol wasn't enough. A cook at the restaurant sold pills that made everything pleasantly distant. I started missing shifts, lost my job. Couldn't make rent. For a while, I slept in my car. Then I sold my car to pay for more pills, more forgetting. The streets became my home, park benches my bed. I stopped calling myself a mother's don't live like this. Don't choose oblivion over fighting. Shame became my constant companion. Heavier than the backpack containing my few remaining possessions, winter came. The shelter was warm but dangerous in its own ways. I kept to myself, spoke to no one, existed as a ghost among the living. The shelter coordinator, a tired woman named Marion with kind eyes, tried several times to engage me. "Whatever you're running from," she said one night as I stared vacantly at a community room television, "it doesn't get better out there." I looked down at my arms, thin and tracked with veins that had become roads to nowhere. My clothes hung from a frame that had forgotten what hunger felt like. My reflection in windows had become a stranger's, gaunt, haunted, aged beyond my 20 years. "My mother stole my baby," I whispered, the first time I'd spoken the truth aloud in months. "She took her from the hospital and made her legally hers. And I couldn't stop her." I expected disbelief, judgment. Instead, Marion sat beside me, her clipboard forgotten. "My sister went through something similar," she said quietly. "Not with a baby, but with her son. Ex-husband took him to another country. Took her 7 years to get him back. 7 years." The number fell like a stone into the dark well of my despair. "How?" My voice cracked on the single word. "She got clean first," Marion said, no judgment in her tone. "Can't fight monsters when you're battling your own demons, too." That night, shivering on my shelter cot, I made a decision. If it took 7 years or 70, I would find my daughter. But first, I had to find myself again in the wreckage of who I'd become. But losing everything was actually the beginning of finding myself. Detox was hell. 3 days of sweating, shaking, and crying out for a daughter who couldn't hear me. The clinic was underfunded and overcrowded, but it was a beginning. A first step back toward becoming someone who deserved to be a mother. "You're doing this for her," I whispered to myself when the cravings clawed at my insides. "For Lily." 2 weeks after detox, Marion connected me with Sarah, a social worker from Women's Advocacy Services. She wore sensible shoes and carried a bag that seemed too heavy for her small frame. Unlike most people who'd heard my story, she didn't look at me with doubt. "Your mother committed birth certificate fraud," she said, flipping through a notepad. In the shelter's meeting room, it happens more than people realize, especially in small towns where personal connections outweigh proper procedures. Hope, dangerous and fragile, flickered in my chest. "So you believe me?" "I've seen cases like yours before," Sarah replied. "The system fails women in crisis all the time. But the system can also be navigated if you know the path." She laid out a map of what we'd need: proof of my pregnancy and delivery, DNA testing, legal representation willing to work pro bono, and most importantly, stability. "Courts don't return children to parents living in shelters," she said bluntly. "You need a job, housing, sobriety. A life a child could be part of." It seemed impossible. Mountains to climb when I could barely stand. "One step at a time," Sarah said, reading my despair. "First step is a job. I know a place that hires women in recovery." The place was Heaven Sent Cleaning Service, owned by a church lady named Beverly who believed in second chances because she'd needed several herself. The pay was minimal, the work exhausting, but it was honest. Each toilet I scrubbed, each Floor I mopped was one step closer to my daughter. After 2 months of cleaning other people's homes, I had enough saved for a security deposit on a tiny studio apartment. It was little more than a room with a kitchenette, but it was mine. The first night there, I sat on my secondhand mattress and cried not from despair, but from a strange new feeling. Pride. Sarah helped me enroll in a weekly therapy group for mothers separated from their children. Some had lost custody to the system, others to abusive partners. All carried the same haunted look, the phantom limb pain of missing children. Trauma changes brain chemistry, our therapist explained. You're not weak for struggling. You're human. In group, I finally spoke my deepest fear aloud. What if she's better off with my mother? What if I'm fighting to take her from a good life? An older woman named Grace, who'd spent 8 years searching for children her ex-husband had hidden, took my hand. That's the abuse talking. They make us doubt our own worth as mothers, but no child is better off being raised by someone who would steal them. For the first time in over a year, I slept without nightmares. The next morning, I taped the hospital Polaroid of Lily to my bathroom mirror. Her newborn face, still swollen from birth, became my daily reminder of purpose. I'm coming, I whispered to her image each morning. Your real mother is coming. 6 months sober looked like calloused hands from scrubbing floors. It looked like a refrigerator with actual food instead of condiment packets stolen from fast. Food places. It looked like a savings account with a balance that grew by tiny increments each week. Beverly promoted me to team leader at Heaven Sent Cleaning. $2 more an hour meant $200 more a month toward the Lily Fund. I'd started a coffee can where I put any extra money that might eventually pay for a lawyer. You're different than when you started, Beverly said one day, as we loaded supplies into the company van. Stronger. I thought about the words as I scrubbed a shower stall that afternoon. Physically, yes, constant movement and better nutrition had restored some of what I'd lost during my months on the street, but the strength went deeper than muscle. It was in my resolve, hardened like steel through fire. Sarah arranged for me to meet with a lawyer who sometimes took pro bono cases. Barbara Mills had gray hair cut in a severe bob and eyes that missed nothing. Your case is complicated, she said after hearing my story. Interstate custody disputes are challenging even without fraud involved. But there are paths forward. She explained what we needed: proof I was the birth mother, evidence of the fraud, and a demonstrated ability to provide for Lily. The courts favor biological parents, but they favor stability more, Barbara cautioned. Your mother has been raising this child for almost 2 years now. That works in her favor. She stole my baby, I said, the familiar anger rising. How can time make that right? Barbara's expression softened slightly. It doesn't make it right, but courts look at what's in the best interest of the child, not what's fair to the adults involved. I swallowed hard. What do I need to do? Keep building your life. Save for the DNA test. That's our first concrete evidence. And prepare yourself for a long fight. Long fights required endurance. I joined a community center gym that cost $10. A month running on their treadmill until my lungs burned, pushing through the pain that reminded me I was alive. I was fighting doubt at night. I took online classes toward a GED. I dropped out of high school when I got pregnant. Another piece of my life derailed. Each completed module felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. My studio apartment slowly transformed. Goodwill furniture. A bookshelf made of milk crates. A plant that somehow didn't die despite my novice care. I bought a small photo album and filled the first page with a Polaroid of Lily. The rest remained empty. Waiting for the future, I was determined to create. The women from my support group became friends, then family. We celebrated sobriety milestones and job promotions, shared childcare tips and legal strategies. On my darkest days, when doubt crept in like a winter draft, their voices reminded me I wasn't alone. 2 years after my daughter's birth, years of her absence, I had saved enough for the DNA test Barbara said we needed. Standing in her office, watching her mail the test kit to the lab, I felt a shift inside me, like tectonic plates realigning. What happens after we prove I'm her mother? I asked. Then we fight, Barbara said simply. with everything we've got. If you believe every mother deserves to raise her own child, hit that like button right now. The DNA test confirmed what I'd always known. I was Lily's biological mother. Barbara filed motions in family court, but we hit a roadblock almost immediately. My mother had disappeared. The address we have in Tennessee is a dead end, Barbara explained. She moved 6 months ago, left no forwarding address. So she's running, I said, pacing her small office. She knows we're looking. After our court filings, the local paper back home had run a small story. Someone must have tipped my mother. Barbara suggested a private investigator. The cost made my stomach drop $3,000 I didn't have. But the women from my support group organized a fundraiser. Grace, whose children have finally been returned after years of searching, contributed the largest amount. Pay it forward someday, was all she said. The pay. A former police officer named Mike Delaney had the worn look of someone who'd seen too much of human nature's darker side. Missing persons is my specialty, he assured me, especially when they don't want to be found. For 2 months, there was nothing. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang while I was deep cleaning an executive's bathroom. I found them, Mike said without preamble. Sedona, Arizona. Your mother changed her name to Ellis, your daughter's middle name. Lily's now enrolled in preschool as Lily Ellis. My hands shook so badly I had to sit on the edge of the bathtub. I have photos, he said gently. I'll bring them to Barbara's office tomorrow. I couldn't sleep that night. What would she look like at 3 years old? Would I recognize her? Would there be anything of me in her face? Or had 3 years of my mother's influence erased all traces of our connection? The photos were laid on Barbara's desk the next day. 5 images taken from a distance with a telephoto lens. My mother, hair now dyed a light brown instead of her natural dark, walking hand in hand with a small girl. My daughter, I touched the photo with trembling fingers. Lily had dark curls like mine falling past her shoulders. Her face had thinned from baby roundness into a child's delicate features. In one photo, she was laughing at something, her head tilted back in abandoned joy. She looks happy, I whispered, tears blurring my vision. Children are resilient, Barbara said. They adapt to their circumstances. Mike had compiled a detailed report. My mother worked as an office manager at a medical practice. Lily attended Little Sprouts preschool 3 days a week. They lived in a small house in a middle-class neighborhood. On Sundays, they went to First Baptist Church. A normal life. A stolen life. What now? I asked, unable to take my eyes off my daughter's face. Now we file in Arizona, Barbara said. We'll need to find an attorney there to work with us. Interstate cases require counsel in both states. More money, more time, more distance between me and my child. How much longer? I asked, the weight of 3 years without my daughter suddenly crushing. Barbara didn't sugarcoat it. Best case, 6 months. Worst case, years. I thought of Lily growing up calling my mother, Mommy. Learning to read, to ride a bike, to navigate. The world without me. Each milestone a theft, each memory a wound. She doesn't even know I exist, I said. The realization like a physical blow. We'll change that, Barbara promised. But we have to do this right. If we move too fast or make mistakes, your mother could disappear again. I nodded, forcing myself to think strategically through the pain. I need to move to Arizona, don't I? To be close for court appearances, to be there when you get custody, Barbara finished firmly. Yes, eventually. But not yet. We need to file properly first. Establish jurisdiction. I left Barbara's office with the photos clutched to my chest and a new determination burning in my heart. My daughter was no longer an abstract loss, but a real little girl with my curls and a smile I'd never seen develop. I'm coming, Lily, I whispered to her image. No matter how long it takes. Finding an Arizona attorney willing to take my case pro bono required more than luck. It required a miracle. The miracle came in the form of Jennifer Ramirez, a family. law specialist who'd built her career helping women navigate broken systems. My mother was taken from Mexico by my father when I was 4. She explained during our first video call, it took her 2 years to find us. I became a lawyer because of that fight. With Jennifer in Arizona and Barbara in Tennessee, we built our legal strategy. The DNA test results formed the foundation. Hospital records from Lily's birth provided further proof. The fraudulent birth certificate with its impossible claim that my mother, at 53, had given birth became our evidence of deliberate deception. We're filing for emergency custody with supervised visitation, Jennifer explained. Your mother will be served papers next week. Be prepared once she knows we found her, she might run again. To prevent that, we requested the court place a hold preventing Lily from leaving the state. It meant I couldn't bring her home to Tennessee immediately, but it also meant my mother couldn't disappear with her again. The wait after filing was excruciating. Each day stretched like taffy, minutes expanding into hours as I imagined my mother being served court papers, her reaction, her next moves. Remember, Barbara cautioned, she's had Lily for over 3 years now. She fight dirty to keep her. My mother's response came through her attorney, a high-priced family lawyer, whose retainer probably cost more than I made in 6 months. She's denying everything, Jennifer reported during our weekly call. Claims she's the biological mother, that you fabricated the whole story due to mental illness and drug addiction. The accusation burned, but I prepared for this. My therapy, records, sobriety chips, employment history, and stable housing all testified to my recovery and stability. She's also claiming that disrupting Lily's life now would cause irreparable psychological harm, Jennifer continued. And she's filed a counter motion for permanent sole custody with no visitation rights for you. My hands clenched around the phone. She stole my child and now wants to make it permanent? It's a common tactic, Jennifer assured me. The more outrageous the counterclaim, the more reasonable a judge will find a middle position. But there could be no middle position. Lily was my daughter. The truth was binary, not a matter for compromise. The judge assigned to our case, Honorable Maria Diaz, had a reputation for being thorough but fair. She ordered an expedited hearing to determine temporary custody arrangements while the case proceeded. You'll need to be in Arizona for this, Jennifer advised. The judge will want to see you in person. I've been saving for this moment, emptied my apartment, sold most of my possessions, said goodbye to the support network I'd built. Beverly gave me a leave of absence rather than an outright resignation. You'll have a job waiting when you bring that little girl home, she promised. The flight to Phoenix was my first time on an airplane. Under different circumstances, I might have been excited by the novelty. Instead, I pressed my forehead against the small window and watched Tennessee disappear beneath me. Clouds obscuring the life I'd rebuilt. Jennifer met me at the airport, a compact woman with intense eyes and a firm handshake. We have the hearing tomorrow at 9, she said as we drove to the modest extended stay hotel I'd booked. Your mother will be there with Lily. My heart stuttered. Lily will be in the courtroom. Not during proceedings, but in the courthouse. The judge wants to observe interactions if possible. Jennifer glanced at me. Are you ready to see them? The question hung between us as Phoenix sprawled outside the car windows. A strange city where my daughter had lived a life I knew nothing about. I've been ready for 3 years, I said. The courthouse loomed like a modern fortress, all glass and steel under the Arizona sun. I wore my only good outfit, black slacks, and a blue blouse I bought specifically for this moment. Jennifer had advised me to look maternal but professional, whatever that meant. Remember, she whispered as we walked through security. Let me do the talking. Your mother's attorney will try to provoke you. We were directed to a small conference room. My heart hammered so loudly I was certain the security guard could hear it. Any minute now I would see my daughter and the woman who'd stolen her from me. The door opened. My mother entered first, her face a mask of righteous indignation. She'd aged new lines around her mouth, hair thinner than I remembered. Behind her came her attorney, a silver-haired man with an expensive suit and cold eyes. Then a court officer led in a little girl. Lily. She was so much bigger than in the photos. Her dark curls pulled back in a neat ponytail, wearing a floral dress one was certain my mother had picked out. She clutched a small stuffed rabbit, eyes wide as she took in the room full of strangers. When she saw my mother, she ran to her. "Mommy, can we go home now?" The word mommy was a knife between my ribs. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. "Not yet, sweetheart," my mother cooed, shooting me a triumphant glance. "Grandma has to talk to these people first." "Grandma?" Jennifer muttered beside me. My mother's attorney cleared his throat. "We've brought evidence of Ms. Walker's unfitness as a parent," he announced, sliding a folder across the table. Jennifer opened it while I kept my eyes fixed on Lily, drinking in every detail, the small scar on her elbow, the way she chewed her bottom lip just like I did when nervous. "Your Honor," Jennifer began, addressing the judge who had joined us. "These allegations are from nearly 4 years ago, before my client, before she abandoned her child to pursue a life of drugs and prostitution." My mother interrupted, her voice dripping with the same sanctimonious judgment she'd wielded throughout my childhood. The accusation hung in the air. Lily looked confused, clinging tighter to my mother's leg. "That's a serious allegation," Judge Diaz said evenly. "Do you have evidence of prostitution?" My mother's attorney shuffled through papers. "We have police reports from when Miss Walker was homeless, Your Honor. Multiple arrests for loitering in known prostitution areas." "I was homeless," I said, unable to stay silent despite Jennifer's warning. "I was sleeping in those areas because the shelter was full. I was never charged with prostitution because I never—" "Your Honor?" My mother cut in. "My daughter has a history of lying to cover her addictions. I took Lily to protect her from an unfit mother who chose drugs over her own child." "The room?" Spun slightly. "You stole her from the hospital," I whispered. "I never chose anything over her. You gave me no choice." "Your Honor," Jennifer interjected, "the DNA test conclusively proves my client is Lily's biological mother. Ms. Walker committed birth certificate fraud to protect my granddaughter." My mother insisted. "Look at her now!" She gestured toward Lily, who was watching the proceedings with wide, confused eyes. "She's healthy, happy, thriving." Would she be any of those things if she'd stayed with a teenage addict? Judge Diaz held up her hand. "I've heard enough for now. Ms. Ellis, please take Lily to the children's waiting area. Court officers will accompany you." After they left, the judge turned to me. "Ms. Walker, your past is concerning." "My past isn't who I am now," I said, meeting her gaze. "I've been sober for 2 years. I have a steady job, a place to live. I've done everything possible to become someone worthy of raising my daughter." "The court acknowledges your efforts," Judge Diaz said. "However, we must consider the psychological impact on the child. Lily knows Ms. Ellis as her mother. Any transition must prioritize her well-being." As we left the conference room, I caught a glimpse of Lily in the waiting area, drawing with crayons while my mother watched. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine for a brief moment, curious. Without recognition, they tried to use my past to steal my future, but I refused to let them. Win 3 more court appearances. Psychological evaluations, home studies, character witnesses. 4 months of legal wrangling that drained my savings and tested my faith. But finally, Judge Diaz granted me supervised visitation. 2 hours twice weekly, Jennifer explained. As we left the courthouse, at the Family Services Center, "A court-appointed supervisor will be present at all times. Will my mother be there?" I asked, both dreading and hoping for the confrontation. "No." The judge ordered separate visitation to minimize conflict. Jennifer squeezed my shoulder. "This is a huge win, Jessie. The court recognizes your parental rights. We're one step closer." The Family Services Center was painted in cheerful colors that couldn't quite mask the institutional feel. The visitation room contained a small table, toys, books, and cameras in each corner. Miss Patel, our supervisor, had kind eyes and a clipboard. "Lily has been told that you're a family friend who's excited to meet her," she explained. "Miss Ellis, you're Mother felt that was easier for her to understand than the full truth at this stage. A family friend, not her mother. The compromise tasted bitter, but I nodded. I'll follow your lead, I promised. When Lily entered, she hid partially behind Miss Patel's legs, eyeing me with cautious curiosity. Hello, Lily, I said, my voice miraculously steady despite the earthquake in my chest. I'm Jessie. I've been looking forward to meeting you. She studied me silently, clutching the same stuffed rabbit I'd seen at the courthouse. Who's your friend? I asked, nodding toward the toy. Hoppy, she said quietly. He's scared of new people. I understand that, I replied. New people can be scary sometimes. Would Hoppy feel better if we read a book together? You could pick. One, slowly she approached the bookshelf, selected a worn copy of Where the Wild Things Are, and brought it to the table, keeping the furniture between us. This one, she said, sliding it toward me. I read to her, changing my voice for different characters the way my father had done before he died when I was 10. Halfway through, Lily edged closer, peering at the illustrations. By the end, she sat beside me, close enough that I could smell the strawberry shampoo in her hair. Again. She asked when I finished. We read it twice more. Then she showed me how Hoppy could do somersaults. I taught her how to make a paper airplane. She told me about her preschool teacher, Miss Carmen, and her best friend, Zoe, who had a pet turtle. Every word was precious, each small confidence a treasure I stored in my heart. My mommy says I'm getting a new bedroom soon, she said as we colored pictures of dinosaurs with purple walls. The casual mention of my mother as Mommy still hurt, but I was learning to breathe through the pain. Purple is a great color, I managed. What's your favorite dinosaur? T-Rex, she answered immediately. They have big teeth, but little arms. That's funny. Her laugh, a cascade of pure joy, was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. When Miss Patel announced our time was ending, Lily looked up in surprise. Already? I'll come back on Thursday, I promised. Maybe we can read a different book. About dinosaurs? She stipulated seriously. Definitely about dinosaurs. She hesitated at the door, then turned back. You can hold Hoppy until Thursday. So you don't get lonely? The stuffed rabbit she pressed into my hands was worn thin with love, one ear slightly frayed. Are you sure? I asked, understanding the magnitude of this trust. She nodded solemnly. He likes you. After she left, I sat alone in the visitation room, holding the toy to my chest, breathing in the scent of my daughter's strawberry shampoo, crayons, and something indefinable that was simply Lily. Miss Patel returned. Clipboard in hand. That went very well, she said. Many first visits are much more difficult. She doesn't know who I am, I whispered. Not yet, Miss Patel agreed gently, but she will. Children sense more than we give them credit for. Something in her recognizes. Something in you. On Thursday, I brought 3 dinosaur books. The following Monday, she ran to me when she entered the room. By our 6th visit, she was sitting in my lap as we read, her small body fitting perfectly against mine. As if remembering how we once shared the same space. It wasn't enough, would never be enough, but it was a beginning. For 3 months, I lived for those twice-weekly visits. I found work as a housekeeper at a local hotel, less money than I'd made as a team leader at Heaven Sent. But the flexible schedule allowed me to never miss a moment with Lily. We built a routine. She would arrive with a new story to tell me about. Preschool, about the neighbor's cat, about anything that had filled her days between our visits. I would bring us small activity puzzles, craft projects, new books. The room that had once felt sterile now contained the growing history of our relationship. During our 12th visit, Lily asked the question I'd been both anticipating and dreading. Are you my real mommy? The room went still. Miss Patel looked up sharply from her corner. I set down the puzzle piece I'd been holding and took a careful breath. What makes you ask that? I managed, heart thundering. Lily fidgeted with her shoelace. I heard Mommy talking on the phone. She said you want to take me away. Her eyes, so like my own, filled with tears. I don't want to go away. I chose my words with excruciating care. I would never take you anywhere that wasn't safe and good for you. But yes, I am your birth mother. I carried you in my tummy until you were ready to be born. But mommy is my mommy, she said, confusion clouding her face. She's been taking care of you, I acknowledged, and she loves you very much. The words tasted like ash, but I forced them out for Lily's sake. But I love you too. I've always loved you. She was quiet for a long time, fitting puzzle pieces together with focused determination. Does that mean I have two mommies? She finally asked. Before I could answer, Miss Patel intervened. Lily, these are complicated grown-up things. But what's important is that everyone loves you very much. The professional deflection frustrated me, but I understood its purpose. This wasn't how the court had planned for Lily to learn the truth. That night, Jennifer called. We have an emergency hearing tomorrow. Your mother is claiming you violated the court order by discussing your biological relationship with Lily. She asked me directly. I protested. Was I supposed to lie? The visitation terms specified that identity discussions would be handled by the court-appointed child psychologist. Jennifer reminded me, your mother is using this to push for visitation suspension. Sleep evaded me that night. I replayed Lily's question, her confusion, her tears. Had I handled it wrong? Should I have deflected? But lying to her felt impossible, a betrayal of the trust we were building. Judge Diaz was not pleased. This court established clear guidelines about how and when the child would be informed of her biological parentage. She admonished, Ms. Walker, you disregarded those guidelines. Your Honor, the child asked her directly, Jennifer argued. Lying would have damaged the relationship they're building. My mother's attorney pounced. This demonstrates Miss Walker's unwillingness to follow court orders. She puts her desires above the child's emotional well-being. Judge Diaz silenced both attorneys with a raised hand. I am ordering a 2-week suspension of visitation while Dr. Levine conducts additional sessions with Lily to assess any emotional impact. 2 weeks. 14 days without seeing Lily. The sentence fell like a physical blow. Additionally, the judge continued, I'm requiring both Ms. Walker and Ms. Ellis to attend co-parenting counseling. Co-parenting. The term implied a partnership that couldn't exist with the woman who had stolen my child daughter as we left the courtroom. My mother brushed past me, her voice a venomous whisper. You'll never have her. I'll take her where you'll never find us before I let that happen. Jennifer heard and immediately turned back. Your Honor, we need to report a threat. But my mother was already speaking to her attorney. Her face a mask of maternal concern, no trace of the threat that had passed between us. That afternoon, I received another call from Jennifer. They didn't show up for Lily's appointment with Dr. Levine. I filed an emergency motion, but she's running, I said, my voice hollow. She's taking Lily again. The police found my mother's house empty. Neighbors reported seeing her loading suitcases into her car the previous evening. Her employer hadn't heard from her. Lily hadn't been dropped off at preschool. Judge Diaz issued an emergency custody order in my favor and an arrest warrant for my mother. But the damage was done. They were gone dash again dot as I stood in the police station, providing what little information I had. A crushing realization settled over me. I had driven my mother to run by getting too close to Lily. By allowing her to ask that fateful question in, trying to win back my daughter, I had lost her a second time. The police issued an Amber Alert. My mother's face and Lily's appeared on local news. At highway rest stops, on social media. The story spread mother abducts granddaughter amid custody battle. Some comments sympathized with me. Others questioned why a grandmother would flee unless she had good reason. I spent days in a fog of fear and guilt. If anything happened to Lily because of me, this isn't your fault, Jennifer insisted during our daily updates. Your mother made a calculated decision to violate court orders. Mike Delaney, the PI who had found them in Arizona, was searching again. She's made mistakes already, he reported. Used a credit card in Albuquerque. They're heading east, back toward Tennessee, or somewhere else entirely. A week into the search, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Is this Jessie Walker? Woman's voice, hesitant but determined. Yes, who is this? My name is Karen Finch. I was your mother's neighbor in Sedona. My breath caught. Do you know where they are? No, she said quickly. But there's something you should know. Something I tried telling the police, but they didn't seem to think it was important. She paused, and I could hear her gathering courage. I've been worried about Lily for months now. Your mother, she's changed. More controlling. I would hear her yelling through the walls. Once I saw her drag Lily from the car by her arm hard enough that Lily cried out. My blood turned to ice. Did you report it? I called child services. They visited, but nothing came of it. Your mother is convincing. Afterward, she told everyone I was mentally unstable, that I made it all up because of some petty neighborhood dispute. Karen's voice hardened. But I know what I saw. She described other incidents. Lily being forced to stand in a corner for hours. Harsh words when Lily spilled juice on her clothes. A birthday party canceled because Lily had mispronounced a word during prayer. The last few weeks, since the courts started your visitation, it got worse, Karen continued. She would grill Lily after every visit about what you talked about. Once, I heard Lily crying, saying she was sorry for liking you. Each word was a knife. I had sensed Lily's occasional reluctance to leave our visits, but had attributed it to normal separation anxiety. Now I understood the fear that might have awaited her at home. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because when they find her, they need to check Lily carefully. Your mother shouldn't have custody. Karen hesitated. There is something not right. The way she talks about Lily, sometimes like she's a possession, not a person. After we hung up, I called Jennifer immediately. She arranged for Karen to give a formal statement to both the police and the court. This changes things, Jennifer said. We now have witness testimony of possible abuse. When they're found, the court will have to consider this in any custody decision. If they're found, I said, the fear a constant companion now. Days stretched. In 2 weeks. Sightings were reported and investigated Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, all false alarms. The national coverage faded as newer, more sensational stories took precedence. Only local Arizona news kept the story alive. Then, exactly 23 days after they disappeared, Mike Delaney called. I found them, he said. Small town called Millbrook in upstate New York. Your mother's sister lived there years ago, died. Recently, but still owned property. They're staying in our house. Are you sure? My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. Positive, I have eyes on the house now. Lily looks okay from what I can see. Playing in the yard with your mother watching from the porch. The New York State Police coordinated with local authorities. Jennifer flew in from Arizona to join me as I made the journey to Millbrook, a tiny dot on the map that had suddenly become the center of my universe. The arrest happened at dawn. I waited in a police cruiser 2 blocks away as instructed. Through the static of police radios, I heard fragments. Suspect in custody. Child secured. No injuries. An officer drove me to the local hospital where they had taken Lily for evaluation. In the pediatric waiting room, a social worker approached. She's asking for Hoppy, the woman said. She says you have him. I reached into my bag where the well-worn rabbit had traveled with me for the past 3 weeks, a talisman of hope. I do, I whispered. Can I see her? The social worker nodded. She also asked if you were her real mommy. I think she needs to hear it from you. Before you hear what happened next, subscribe to our channel for more stories of mothers fighting impossible battles. They brought Lily to a small room painted with cartoon characters, a space designed to comfort children in crisis. She sat on an examination table, legs dangling, looking smaller than I remembered. When she saw me, her eyes widened. Jessie, you brought Hoppy. I handed her the stuffed rabbit, which she clutched to her chest. I kept him safe for you, I said, carefully sitting beside her. Just like I promised. The social worker stood by the door, giving us space while maintaining supervision. A doctor had already examined Lily, finding her physically unharmed but emotionally distressed. "Where's Mommy?" Lily asked, her voice small. I swallowed hard. "She's talking with some people right now." "She broke some rules, Lily. Important rules about where you were supposed to be." Her lower lip trembled. "Are we in trouble?" "You're not in trouble at all," I assured her. "None of this is your fault." She studied my face, her expression far too serious for a 4-year-old. "Mommy said you want to steal me. But Corinne next door said you're my real mommy who had me in your tummy." I'm confused. The moment had arrived, a conversation I'd imagined countless times. I took a deep breath. "Remember when you asked if I was your real mommy and I told you I carried you in my tummy? That was the truth. When you were born, my mother, the person you call mommy, took you from the hospital without permission. She told people she was your mother, but she's actually your grandmother." Lily's brow furrowed as she processed this. "So you didn't give me away?" "Never," I said firmly. "I've been looking for you since the day you were born. I never, ever wanted to be apart from you." She looked down at Hoppy, adjusting his ears. "But who will take care of me now?" "I will," I said. "If that's okay with you." "I'm your mother, and I love you very, very much." She didn't answer immediately, her small face scrunched in concentration. "Would I live in your house?" "Yes, we'd find a nice place with room for all your things. And Hoppy, of course." "What about Grandma?" The word came hesitantly, testing this new reality. I chose my words carefully. "She needs to talk to doctors who can help her understand why what she did was wrong. She won't be able to live with us." Tears filled her eyes. Will I ever see her again? The question pierced me. Despite everything, Lily loved the woman who had raised her. That love might be complicated by fear and confusion, but it was real. "That will be up to doctors and judges to decide what's safe," I explained gently. "But no matter what, I'll always be honest with you about what's happening." She nodded solemnly, then asked, "Can I call you Mommy?" The simple question undid me. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I nodded. "I would love that more than anything." Lily reached up, patting my wet cheek with a small hand. "Don't cry, Mommy. Hoppy doesn't like it when people cry." I laughed through my tears, pulling her into a gentle hug that she didn't resist. "Then I'll try to be happy instead." The New York Family Court convened an emergency hearing the next day, with evidence of my mother's flight to avoid court orders, Karen Finch's testimony about concerning behavior, and the recommendation of child services. Judge Harrison granted me temporary custody. "This arrangement will be reviewed in 30 days. He cautioned. "Ms. Walker, the court expects you to provide stability and appropriate support for Lily during this transition." As we left the courthouse, Lily held my hand. Not clinging in fear, not being dragged along, but choosing to connect her small fingers intertwined with mine, just as they had in those first moments after her birth, 7 years after her disappearance. From the hospital, my daughter was finally coming home. The first weeks were harder than I'd imagined. Lily woke screaming from nightmares she couldn't articulate. She tested boundaries, constantly refusing food, throwing tantrums, hiding when it was time for bed. Dr. Chun, the child psychologist assigned to our case, explained it was normal. "She's grieving the loss of the only caregiver she remembers." While adjusting to a new parent, Dr. Chun said during our weekly session, "Her world has been turned upside down. The testing behavior is actually a good sign. She's seeing if you'll still love her even when she's bad." We rented a small 2-bedroom apartment near a park in Millbrook. I couldn't take Lily across state lines yet, and the court wanted her to maintain some stability in a familiar area. Jennifer helped me navigate the legal landscape while I focused on building a home and a relationship with my daughter. The breakthroughs came in small moments. Lily allowing me to comb her hair after bath time, her small hands slipping into mine unprompted during a walk, finding her asleep with her head on my lap while we watched a movie. Dr. Chun suggested establishing consistent routines. We created rituals: pancakes on Sunday mornings, a special goodnight song, a secret handshake when I dropped her at preschool. The structures gave Lily security in a world that had shifted beneath her feet. The questions came at unexpected times. "Why did Grandma take me?" she asked one night as I tucked her in. "She thought she was doing what was best," I said, the most generous truth I could offer. Sometimes grown-ups make very wrong choices even when they love someone. "Is she in jail?" My mother had been charged with custodial interference and fraud. She'd accepted a plea deal, probation, and mandatory psychiatric treatment instead of prison time, provided she respected the restraining order keeping her away from us. "No, but she's getting help from doctors," I explained. "She made some bad choices because she wasn't thinking clearly." Lily considered this. "Like when I have big feelings and can't think straight?" "Something like that," I agreed, amazed by her perception, but much bigger and more complicated. Another night, she asked about her father. I told her about Tommy, his charm, his absence, the little I knew about his life now from social media. "When you're older, if you want to find him, I'll help you," I promised. We saw Dr. Chen twice weekly, sometimes together, sometimes separately. During one session, she had us create a timeline of Lily's life, filling in the gaps in both our stories. "I was in your tummy here," Lily said, pointing to a spot on the long paper scroll. "And then Grandma took me to Arizona. And now I'm here with you." She frowned at the timeline. "But where were you? Why didn't you come find me sooner?" The question cut deep. I tried. "Sweetheart, first I had to get better myself. Then I had to save money for people to help me search. It took a long time, but I never stopped looking for you." She added a drawing of me to the timeline, a stick figure with a sad face, then progressively happier faces as the timeline approached the present. "You were sad without me," she observed. "Very sad," I confirmed, "but now I'm happier than I've ever been." 3 months after gaining custody, I sat in Judge Harrison's courtroom as he reviewed our case. Dr. Chen testified about Lily's progress. My mother's psychiatrist discussed her ongoing treatment for narcissistic personality disorder. The court-appointed observer reported on the healthy attachment forming between Lily and me. "The court finds that permanent custody should remain with the biological mother, Jessica Walker," Judge Harrison declared. "Supervised visitation with the grandmother may be reconsidered after 1 year, contingent on continued psychiatric treatment and the recommendation of the child's therapist." That night, I tucked Lily into bed with Hoppy, their nightly ritual unchanged by the court's decision. "Dr. Chen says we're doing really good," she informed me solemnly. "She says I'm brave." "You're the bravest person I know," I agreed. "Mommy?" she asked, the words still new enough to send a thrill through me each time she used it. "Are we a forever family now?" "Yes," I promised, kissing her forehead. "Forever and ever." The permanent custody hearing was scheduled exactly 1 year after. I gained temporary custody of Lily. We'd moved back to Tennessee 6 months earlier. Once the court allowed interstate relocation, Beverly had kept her promise. My job at Heaven Sent Cleaning was waiting, with a promotion to office manager that meant regular hours and benefits. "Are you nervous?" Grace asked as we sat in my small but cheerful kitchen the night before the hearing. She'd been my rock throughout this journey, even driving to New York twice to help during those tumultuous first months with Lily. "Terrified," I admitted, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear from her bedroom. What if my mother convinces them she's changed? What if they grant her unsupervised visitation? "The courts don't undo custody without cause," Grace reassured me. "You've done everything right. Lily is thriving." It was true. My once fearful, tantrum-prone daughter now laughed easily. Her preschool teacher reported she was socially adjusted and academically advanced. The nightmares had mostly subsided. She called me Mommy without hesitation. Still, the dread of facing my mother again, of placing Lily's future in the hands of a judge, kept me awake most of the night. The courtroom felt less intimidating than it had a year ago. Barbara represented me now that we were back in Tennessee. Jennifer had prepared an extensive brief, documenting our progress for the court. Dr. Chen had submitted her recommendations via video deposition that my mother entered with her attorney, looking thinner but more composed than I remembered. She didn't acknowledge me, her eyes scanning the room as if searching for Lily, who was safely with Grace in the courthouse child care center. Judge Mills, a stern woman with steel gray hair, reviewed the case files before addressing the court. This is the final custody determination for minor child Lily Walker. I understand both parties have submitted motions. My mother's attorney stood. Your Honor, Ms. Ellis has completed the court-mandated psychiatric treatment program. Her doctors report significant progress in understanding her actions and developing healthier attachment patterns. We're requesting the court grant regular, unsupervised visitation rights. Barbara countered immediately. Your Honor, while we acknowledge Ms. Ellis has participated in treatment, Dr. Chun's evaluation clearly states that any visitation should remain supervised indefinitely, given the history of abduction and the psychological impact on the child. Judge Mills turned to my mother. Ms. Ellis, I've reviewed your psychiatric evaluations. Would you like to address the court regarding your understanding of your actions? My mother rose, smoothing her conservative navy dress. Your Honor, I made terrible mistakes. In my mind, I was protecting my granddaughter from what I perceived as danger. My treatment has helped me recognize that I was wrong to take Lily and to deceive everyone, including her. I'm deeply sorry for the pain I caused. The apology sounded rehearsed but sincere. I studied her face, searching for the manipulation I'd grown up with, the righteous certainty that had always justified her control. And how do you view your daughter's role as Lily's mother now? Judge Mills asked. A flicker of the old hardness crossed my mother's face before she controlled it. Jessica has proven herself capable. Lily appears well cared for. I only wish to be part of my granddaughter's life in whatever capacity the court deems appropriate. Not quite an endorsement, but not the condemnation I'd expected either. My turn came to speak. I focused on Lily rather than my grievances. Your Honor, my daughter is finally secure and happy. She's building relationships with friends at her new preschool. She's sleeping through the night. Any change to her stability needs to be approached with extreme caution. Judge Mills considered both testimonies before delivering her ruling. The court finds that permanent sole custody shall remain with the biological mother, Jessica Walker, regarding visitation with Ms. Ellis. The court orders continued therapeutic supervised visits twice monthly for 6 months, after which the supervision requirement may be reviewed if recommended by the child's therapist. She fixed my mother with a stern gaze. Ms. Ellis, this court takes extremely seriously your previous violation of court orders. Any deviation from the visitation schedule or attempt to undermine Ms. Walker's parental authority will result in immediate termination of all visitation rights. Is that understood? My mother nodded stiffly as we left the courtroom. She approached me the first direct interaction we'd had in over a year. I'd like to see her today, she said, her voice neither demanding nor pleading, if that's possible. I considered refusing but thought of Lily, who still sometimes asked about her grandmother despite everything. The courthouse visitation center, I replied. 1 hour, Dr. Rollins will need to be present. She nodded, a complex emotion crossing her face. Thank you. The simple acknowledgement was perhaps the closest thing to respect she'd ever shown me. Life settled into a rhythm I once thought impossible. Mornings rushing to get Lily ready for kindergarten. Afternoons helping with simple homework. Weekends at the park or library. Ordinary moments that felt extraordinary after everything we'd lost. The supervised visits with my mother continued. Dr. Rollins reported they were appropriately cordial, but noted my mother still struggled with boundaries. Lily approached these visits with cautious curiosity rather than the excitement or fear I'd anticipated. Grandma got me this, she said after one visit, showing me a children's book about a rabbit family. She said it reminded her of Hoppy. I examined the gift appropriate, thoughtful, without the excessive indulgence that might signal an attempt to buy Lily's affection. A small positive sign. That was nice of her, I said carefully. Should we read it tonight? Lily nodded, but seemed hesitant. Mommy, why does Grandma still call you Jessica instead of calling me my mom? The perceptive question caught me off guard. I think it's hard for her to see me as your mom because she wanted that role for herself for a long time. But she's not my mom, Lily stated with the certainty of a 5-year-old. She's my grandma. That's different. Yes, I agreed, marveling at her clarity. It is different. As Lily adjusted to our new life, questions about her past emerged with increasing frequency. She wanted to know about her birth, about the hospital where she was born, about the first house she'd lived in with my mother. Dr. Rollins advised honesty with age-appropriate details. Children need coherent narratives of their lives, she explained. The gaps in Lily's understanding will only grow more confusing if left unfilled. So I answered each question truthfully, but gently. We created a special scrapbook where I added photos and stories from her early years, the few I had from her birth, the ones recovered from my mother's home in Arizona, new ones we created daily. This is your life story, I told her as we pasted, in a photo of her first day of kindergarten, and we're writing it together now. The most difficult questions came at night, when the darkness seemed to invite deeper thoughts. Why did Grandma think you wouldn't take care of me? She asked once, her voice small in the dim glow of her nightlight. I chose my words with care. When you were born, I was very young and had some problems. Grandma was worried about that. But she was wrong to take you away instead of helping us. Stay together. Were you scared? She asked. Very scared, I admitted. And very sad without you, but also determined to find you again. She considered this. Like in my book about the lost penguin who finds his way home. Exactly like that, I said, grateful for the simple metaphor. We both found our way home. Setting boundaries with extended family proved challenging. My mother's sister, reached out wanting to meet Lily. Old family friends from church called, curious about the situation they'd heard whispered about. I navigated these waters cautiously, allowing only those connections that felt genuinely supportive rather than intrusive or judgmental. Through it all, my support group remained my foundation. Grace and the other women who'd helped me rebuild my life celebrated each milestone with us. Lily's first successful school play, my promotion at work, our move to a small house with a yard where Lily could have the puppy she'd been begging for. On Lily's 6th birthday, we hosted a small party. Her friends from school came with wrapped presents and excited energy. My friends, now our family of choice, helped serve cake and organize games. My mother attended for the agreed-upon hour, bringing a sensible gift and maintaining appropriate behavior under Dr. Rollins' watchful eye. As she prepared to leave, Lily surprised us both by offering a quick hug. Thank you for coming to my party, Grandma, she said with the simple politeness we'd practiced. Something shifted in my mother's expression, a softening I'd rarely witnessed. Thank you for inviting me, Lily. Later, after the last guest had gone and Lily was surrounded by new toys, she looked up at me with frosting still smudged on her cheek. This was the best birthday ever, she declared. I thought of all the birthdays I'd missed, all the moments lost to time and circumstances beyond my control. But instead of dwelling on that grief, I focused on her joy in this moment of joy I could finally share. The first of many best birthdays, I promised, wiping the frosting from her face. We have so many more to celebrate together. Lily turns 11 today. The gangly preteen who bursts through the door after school bears little resemblance to the frightened 4-year-old I reclaimed 7 years ago. Yet sometimes I catch glimpses of that smaller self in her expressions, her questions, the way she still sleeps with Hoppy tucked under her arm on difficult nights. Mom, Jenny's mom said I can spend the night Friday if it's okay with you, she announces, dropping her backpack by the door despite our 100 conversations about the proper place for school things. We'll see, I answer the universal parent response. That makes her roll her eyes dramatically. Later, after homework and dinner, we sit on the porch swing of our modest but comfortable home. The afternoon sun catches the highlights in her dark hair so like mine but with more natural curl. Do you think Grandma will call today? She asks, her tone casual but her fingers fidgeting with the friendship bracelet on her wrist. Probably, I say. She usually remembers your birthday. My mother and I have reached an uneasy peace over the years. The supervised visits eventually transitioned to regular weekend afternoons, then occasional overnight stays once Lily turned. 8. Dr. Rollins still checks in quarterly, but the intense monitoring has faded as my mother demonstrated consistent appropriate behavior. We'll never be close. Too much has happened. Too many wounds inflicted that will never fully heal. But we found a way to coexist for Lily's sake. Jenny asks why I have 2 birthday parties. Lily says, one with you and one with Grandma. What did you tell her? I ask, curious about how she explains our complicated family situation to friends. She shrugs. I told her my grandma did something bad when I was a baby, but she's better now, and anyway, 2 parties means twice the cake. I laugh at her practical outlook. That's one way to look at it. As twilight settles around us, Lily grows pensive. Mom, do you think I'll ever meet my dad? The question comes periodically as she grows older, her curiosity about Tommy Jackson, increasing with her awareness of other kids' family structures. If you want to, we can try to find him when you're older, I answer, the same response I've given before. From what I've seen on social media, he's married with a family in California now. She nods, processing this information. I don't think I want to yet, maybe when I'm 16. Whenever you're ready, I assure her. There's no rush. We sit in comfortable silence until my phone pings with a text message. I check it, surprised by the sender. It's from Grandma, I tell Lily. She wants to know if she can drop off your gift tomorrow instead of this weekend. She has a doctor's appointment on Saturday. Is she sick? Lily asks, concern flickering across her face. I don't think so. Just a regular checkup, I say, though I've noticed my mother looking more frail lately, her 71 years beginning to show in ways they hadn't before. After Lily goes to bed, I find an envelope that arrived. In today's mail. My mother's handwriting on the front, addressed to me alone unusual, as her communications are typically directed to Lily with me as an afterthought. Dot inside is a single sheet of paper, her precise penmanship filling half the page. Jessica on Lily's birthday, I find myself reflecting on choices made and consequences borne. What I did was unforgivable. I know this now. At the time, I believed I was saving her from uncertainty, providing the stability I thought you couldn't offer. I was wrong. You have become the mother I never was. Patient, understanding, willing to put Lily's needs before your own ego. The mother I should have been to you. I don't ask for forgiveness. Some things lie beyond that grace. But I want you to know that I see the woman and mother you've become, and I'm humbled by your strength. Margaret, the letter trembles in my hands. Not quite an apology, not quite absolution, but an acknowledgement I never expected to receive. 7 years ago, I might have craved this validation desperately. Now I recognize it for what it is, a small step in her journey, not a necessary component of mine. My worth as Lily's mother was never dependent on my mother's recognition of it. I fold the letter and place it in the memory box I keep in my closet alongside Lily's first lost tooth, her kindergarten drawings, the court document that finally, irrevocably named me as her legal mother. Tomorrow we'll celebrate another year of Lily's life. My mother will bring a gift, maintain appropriate boundaries, and leave after the agreed upon time. We'll continue the careful dance we've choreographed through years of therapy and supervised interactions. It's not perfect. It's not the family I imagined when I first held my newborn daughter. But it's ours, hard-won, deliberately constructed, fiercely protected. And when I look at Lily confident, compassionate, secure in the knowledge that she's deeply loved, I know that every struggle, every tear, every moment of despair on the long road to finding her was worth it. This is what survival looks like, not the absence of scars, but the presence of healing. Not the erasure of the past, but the courage to build a future from its lessons. Not perfect resolution, but the daily choice to love beyond the pain. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear that even the most broken relationships can be healed. Leave a comment with the words, "I believe in second chances," so I know you're out there too.